What's up, guys? Everyone has their worst years in school, whether that would be in high school, elementary school, or for me, middle school, or to some people, junior high. For me, that would be sixth grade. So many bad things happened during that year that made sixth grade the worst school year I've had of all time. We began on the first day of school. Right before first period, I went out of the classroom just to check on my locker, just to make sure I had everything I needed for class, and then the bell rang. The teacher in my first period class, who I will call Mrs. Fewer, had given me a tardy slip on the first day just because I was checking my locker when the bell rang, when I was outside the classroom and my locker was not too far from the classroom. I can understand on any other day, but she should not have given me a tardy slip on the first day of school because I have just started the first day like everyone else. There should be an exception for that because it was the first day and I just wasn't in class when the bell rang. Things were already going downhill from there. The good thing was that Mrs. Fuhrer did not last long, and we ended up getting a substitute for a while before getting a permanent teacher who was really understanding for the rest of the year. I would meet my other teachers, such as the teacher that taught life skills in a success class, the math teacher, the science teacher, and the geography teacher. In this school year, us students were introduced to a game called Kahoot, where you would get quizzed on certain topics and for studying, and us students would play that game well in the high school. I never understood why we played that game at first in middle school. It wasn't a bad game. However, the school rules never allowed us to have phones, yet there was an exception when it came to Kahoot. I used to have a phone before middle school, but even then I thought I was too young to have one, as I didn't get another phone until 8th grade. This was also the same year I first saw everyone using Snapchat, and I thought that social media app was stupid, especially since people would post random shit on their story, and I didn't know why everyone was using it since that app had poor communication. At school, I would get called names several times during the year, but that would be nothing compared to getting tons of tardy slips, whether it was because I didn't go to class before the bell rang, which was very few times when I would have to go to the bathroom, or for anything that was considered trouble to the school. One time I was almost late and there was a line of people walking by outside the bathroom and I was running late. I didn't want to use a pass to go to the bathroom during class because you get a certain amount of passes during middle school and you would have to hold a lanyard as a pass, which you would also wear around your neck, and I couldn't wait any longer because I had to go to the bathroom. So I ended up getting through the line because they probably wouldn't let me through and there was no time to excuse myself. Now, that would be considered rude, but it was either I had to excuse myself through, trying to push my way through, or I'd have to go to class anyway, feeling worried that I would wet myself during class. I had a stern talking to by a teacher, and even when I was trying to explain myself, I still got an unreasonable tardy slip for that. Even when I would get in trouble sometimes, one of the staff members told me I can't cry in middle school, as if I was too old to do that, and it was only for very little kids, or babies or toddlers, because it would make me feel bad when I got in trouble for stupid reasons or for just defending myself. Because apparently to them, because I'm not in elementary school anymore, and that when you were 11 or 12, which is in 6th grade or middle school in general, you can't cry anymore. That's bullshit, because you're never too old to cry. Seriously, like, they would tell me, oh, you can't cry in middle school. Like, that's bullshit. The only good thing I would have to say in regards to this is that when we got a new teacher in English class, she was very understanding as to why us students were late, and she wouldn't give us a tardy slip over minor things, which was good. There were several times where I was teased and got called a name I'm also known by instead of my nickname, like my actual birth name, just to piss me off, even though I didn't like to be called that, because they thought that was funny, and other times they did not know because my teachers would accidentally call me by my birth name in attendance. Let's say my real name is Nicholas. My real name's not really Nicholas, but let's say it is. One time out of more than several times I got called Nicholas by some other kid, and I was pissed they didn't call me Nick instead. So I gave him the middle finger, and he got so offended by that to the point where he got me in trouble without thinking how much calling me by that name pissed me off, because I don't like being called that name. Just like other people's situations, I was also told to ignore them when that happened, which never worked. At one point, I would have my classes change over a dispute with my parents, having two different teachers in the same year. One of the teachers that I've had, which was my math teacher at first, was very nice. However, since I have received a lot of work in the class and homework given to me every Wednesday that I had to keep and I couldn't turn in until the following Wednesday, even if I got it done before the weekend, so I couldn't turn it in before the weekend. And I ended up getting in trouble over stupid things, which were minor and understandable sometimes, as some of them were stupid, but mostly for other stupid reasons that wasn't reasonable, which a lot of them were unreasonable situations, which led to bad teacher relations with my parents. I would have my classes changed around in different spots on the schedule, including a different teacher for math and science. None changed much with math though, except I would have to get a tutor later on. But the worst thing that have ever happened to me that made sixth grade the worst year ever of school for me was at the end of the school year in math class where we had to write a letter that would be seen by a future student who would be in sixth grade the next year. I took the opportunity to write about all the experiences I've had in sixth grade, and by warning the person who gets the letter of how careful you need to be, as I would get a lot of tardy slips over ridiculous things, whether that be against the rules or not. So I would warn whichever student in the next year afterwards that got it that like you could get tardy slips if you're not careful. The teachers got so offended by that and thought it was so rude that I would get sent to the office where I would have a talk with one of the school administrators, who I'm going to call Mr. Bull. At Mr. Bull's office, I'd get a talk about my entire year, and he explained how he thought it was justified on why I got most of these tardy slips and the times I would get in trouble. And he would talk about that one time in the beginning of the year during the assembly where he talked about bullying and how I mentioned to him when I got called that this isn't an old type middle school or some shit like that. And that he's disappointed with me about that, like I betrayed the school or something. I also forgot to mention how at the end of the year, a lot of dumb parents voted to have uniforms be the main clothes that all students would wear, which would be 3 different kinds of polo shirts and khaki shorts or pants, which would be a more insane dress code as this would be in the public middle schools. So with that being said, I talked to Mr. Bull about the fact that I'm going to be homeschooled next year because I didn't want to wear uniforms and my parents agreed. He told me my parents should have voted against uniforms, as if their votes would have counted against some stupid parents and others who voted in favor of it, who should have taken their kids to private school. Mr. Bull told me this, and I quote, "I hope that you will be homeschooled." The worst part is that neither he, the principal, or anyone they knew, whether it be relatives of those people or others who also worked at that school, ever helped me when I had issues during sixth grade. With that, I at least passed the sixth grade year, but I have thought that I got banned from going to that middle school because of that altercation at the end of the year. Maybe I have, but maybe I have not. I could have went back, but I didn't. As I did get homeschooled for 7th grade and got through that by the skin of my teeth, and I went to the other middle school in my town in 8th grade, where I had to wear that ridiculous uniform outfit for one full public school year, which was horrible, but at least I passed that school year as well. But those experiences, for the most part, made 6th grade the worst school year of all time. And this was all the stuff I could think about from memory I wanted to talk about, as I promised this video in a rant video I did on my Bricks Fish channel a few years ago. This is just a story time at best, because I want to do an animation of this, but I wasn't able to finish it, and I nearly forgot about this, so this is just the best way I'm going to do it. And yeah, I'm so happy to finally get this video out, and if you like this video, there will be more coming soon. And if you like these type of storytime videos, where I either do gaming footage or some parts of animation, maybe I might do pictures or whatever, just let me know if you want to see more videos like this. Anyways, this has been Brick, and I'm out.